my name is RJ Saffer. I'm an undergrad mechanical engineering student here at Texas Tech University. I'm here with another Texas Tech student. I'll have her go ahead and introduce herself.
Hi, my name is Micah Lapointe. I'm a PhD student in the Department of Electrical Engineering, and my research is focused on the development of high-power microwave weapons for drone deterrence.
So, very knowledgeable on the topic we will be discussing. And the topic that we are discussing is lethal autonomous weapon system. And to be correct, you work with non-lethal
Yes,
systems?
everything is non-lethal.
Okay. So I just want to kind of ask some questions about lethal autonomous weapon systems, because I'm sure you still do have some sort of knowledge about that. Do you think that, like, the military personnel, we can trust them to use these autonomous weapon systems?
Yeah, so most of the weapon systems will be operated by the engineers who worked on this technology and helped develop them, so they will be knowledgeable. But from an ethical standpoint, putting that onus on somebody who is controlling it, that's a big burden to bear, and I'm not sure that we have the military personnel who are ready to fully accept that responsibility.
If military personnel are engineers, they should know that they will be responsible for the actions of these machines and do everything possible to keep them from harming innocent lives. Yes. So the purpose of this podcast is to really bring the issue to light to military personnel, so then they have the knowledge to make a good decision and on the behalf of civilians or innocent lives that could be at stake with these lethal systems. I know that you do research on Oppenheimer and everything, so you like to say that he is like the devil's advocate, right?
Yeah, so what's really interesting about him was he was contracted by the U.S. government to, do nuclear systems, but when it came to actually using them, he was against it, but then the military went ahead and said, well, we're going to do what we want. And, afterwards he was a big advocate for defunding nuclear weapons and also very against the hydrogen bomb. And so I think it just goes to show you that, sometimes when you're in the heat of the moment, it might seem like a very necessary decision, but then the aftermath and the fallout can really weigh on your consciousness as an engineer, and it's really important to always keep that in mind.
Oppenheimer was against the hydrogen bomb, but the military was going to use it regardless, so his thoughts was to drop it where it would cause the least amount of damage. And that was the best thing that he could do in the situation that he was given, with the knowledge that he knew, being able to calculate where it would do the least amount of damage. I couldn't agree more. There's definitely a lot that engineers could do to help prevent the loss of lives in this situation that could arise in the future with these lethal systems starting to come out. What do you think that people that aren't like an engineer necessarily, but just still in the military, that are going to be kind of working with these systems, is there anything that you think that they could do?
I mean, just having an understanding of what it means for something to be autonomous, right? Like, what is actually happening? I think that's a big thing that engineers should help with in the military, is educating, civilian soldiers who don't have the same background, that autonomous means that it will make decisions on its own. There's a difference between unmanned aerial vehicles, which can be remote controlled by a pilot, they're just not on it, versus, autonomous, which is a computer will make the decision. It will see a target and it will fire. And for civilians just to truly grasp what that means.
With these new systems being implemented, we will see a learning curve. Engineers will have to vet these systems to be okay to use in real-world situations and then be operated by them, those who design them, so they have training and the understanding of how they will react, and try to prevent any harm. And just a lethal weapon system could just choose to take someone else's life, and a human life I don't think should be allowed to be taken just by a robot.
Right.
Like, it shouldn't be in the hands of something that doesn't have a conscience for it to weigh on.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it from like an ethics standpoint, you have Kantian ethics, Aristotelian ethics, and, utilitarianism. And honestly, there's no way to justify under any of those classifications the essentially using a computer to take life. It's taking life very it makes life very insignificant with a decision like that.
Yes. And the other question that I have is not more or less with the ethics, but more with, do you think that with these fully autonomous lethal weapon systems, do you think that there could be not necessarily like a nuclear arms race, but another arms race, but for fully autonomous weapon systems?
For sure, for sure. I mean, my research right now is ramping up like crazy because, we're seeing it in the Russo-Ukrainian war that drones, which a lot of time are what they're wanting to make autonomous, are being used a lot. And my research is, how can we prevent it? And there's a lot of interest in that because we're seeing it right now that even though these systems aren't autonomous, once our machine learning algorithms get better, these systems will rapidly start becoming autonomous. And we're already trying to rapidly deal with the crises that is evolving with just drone technology.
And do you think that international humanitarian laws, or the Red Cross, the UN, the Geneva Convention, do you think that those will help prevent these systems from either getting in the wrong hands or going haywire in the field?
I mean, it's really hard to say, right? Because this is a relatively new technology, and even drone warfare is pretty new to the Russo-Ukrainian conflict. So we're not really seeing how these groups and organizations are actually regulating. And once you enter war, that's where you're at. So, and it's almost impossible to regulate during the war. So I'm just not sure that they'll really have the means to be able to actually implement any sort of real deterrence from using them.
Yeah. And like all these systems are still, a lot of them are still in the works, so you don't quite know how they're going to react. And the Department of Defense says that they require extensive testing and reviews and management and oversight for the approval of any weapon systems. But do you think that every single situation and scenario that is required from warfare, that humans have the knowledge to react to in the moment? Do you think a robot could be wounded or trained to do and deal with that?
Well, I mean, like, every machine learning algorithm is going to have biases, right? Because they are humanly trained. And so you could have weighted biases, say against race or things like that, that could become potentially scary and dangerous. And not only that, but it's making a very rapid, computers can react almost the speed of light. And so making a rapid decision without any sort of personnel oversight is worrisome.
Yeah, and like the number of different scenarios that the military does have to encounter, it is scary because the weather, debris, anything, obstacles to overcome. If there's innocent lives in front of hostiles, people that are engaging, say, friendlies, or even the risk of green on green or friendly fire with lethal weapon systems, I feel like is definitely a concern. The military has been known to exemplify their swiftness and precision in reacting to situations. I feel that if they had the power of lethal autonomous weapon systems, that they would have nothing to hold them back, because there technically almost be no lives at stake to put out there. See, they can just put the robot out there and let it do its work, and they don't have any risk except for what the robot might cause. Do you think that the military really can be trusted, even if it is with engineers, if they're fully autonomous?
The United States has definitely been known to act on intel alone already, and we've seen quite a few civilian casualties. I mean, you can even look at the Israel-Palestine conflict, right? There was a humanitarian ship that was attacked 2 days ago, and they had intel. They say they had intel that suggested that there were Hamas allies on the ship, and there weren't. And so you can make. I feel like it just makes people way faster to react without truly considering the consequences.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think, well, those are pretty much all the questions and answers that I wanted to hear about your takes on these lethal weapon systems that are coming out that are fully autonomous. I just want to say thank you for your time, and I really do appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. I'm happy to be here.